Kiss FM.
Well, of course, it's here once again. It's a welcome return to international superstar Sir Cliff Richard and my old mate, with 260 million records worldwide, more than 130 singles, albums and EPs. They've all made the top UK 20, a record number shared only with Elvis Presley as the only act to make singles charts in all of its first 6 decades, from the 50s right the way through to the 2000s, and he's still going strong, fit and well. Good morning, Cliff.
Fit and well and doing my best.
Oh, you look in the rudest and rudest of health.
Thank you.
That was one of the questions I had from Teresa Grice. She asked me during the week, what is the secret to your youthful looks?
What did you tell her?
Well, I actually told her from past experience, it's basically down to exercise, you know, playing tennis and eating sensibly,
yes,
sleeping well.
Perfect.
And I think that basically answered your lifestyle, isn't it?
It does, actually, yeah. And, you know, tennis is good, but you can find other ways of exercising, walking or even swimming.
Yeah.
And eating the right food is good. So you were absolutely right.
Yeah, and you drink lots of water, as we can see on the webcam. Hold it up, Cliff. Look, water. It is nothing else. And the other question she asked, any new stuff in the pipeline?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to go back to Nashville and make Volume 2 of the fabulous Rock and Roll Songbook. So that'll be at the end of October.
Well, because Volume 1 we played August last year.
You played
from
it first.
Your own copy before it was released in November.
That's right, I remember bringing it in.
Yeah.
And, well, we had good success with that. In fact, funnily enough, we old-timers actually every now and then get into that top 10, and it was really quite a thrill to get there. And I was so thrilled this year to see Hank Marvin got him with his album. You know, he's got a new album out, and I was so proud of him because earlier in the year he'd released an album called Django's Castle. And Hank, over the years, has got very interested in jazz music, and particularly the gypsy jazz,
yes,
as in Django Reinhardt. Well, his album was absolutely stunning. I shouldn't have been surprised. He's a brilliant guitarist. And now he's brought another one out in the old-style shadow-sounding Hank, with songs you'd know, but as instrumentals.
And I'll tell you what, that was one of the questions, and I've got so many questions here for you. Goodness knows how we're going to fit them all in, but somebody did ask, do you still keep in touch with the other member of the Shads? Well, I know you go and see Hank when you're in Australia.
Yep.
And, of course, Brian, he's also got a home here in the Algarve, so we see him quite regularly.
Yeah, but I think Brian's at the moment he's in a bit of a state because he had a fire at his home in England. And the garage area, he turned it over into a place that had all it was his archive of everything he's worked at, manuscripts, photographs, 3 fantastic original drum kits, and the fire destroyed them all. And so he's struggling with the insurance company, and I hope they agree to pay out, because someone like Brian has been through so much over the years in terms of the musical achievements that it seems so sad. Anyway, I think he's getting over it. He said he's still a bit under the cloud, but terrible thing to have had.
Yeah, he doesn't get a lot of luck. We actually saw him on the Stars Sing for Charity. He was there.
Yes,
yeah, and
of course Bruce I see more rarely because he doesn't have a place here, but usually we meet up in town. He usually comes to see me if I'm doing a gig somewhere close to London. So we're not in touch by phone every day, but we've never lost the love we've had for each other.
Yeah, it was Edward Frost who, in fact, asked that question. Are you in touch with the other guys? Yeah, and of course we know you are. Now, another one came in from a guy, Barrington Baz Thompson, who says he plays the Shads music and sings your songs, and he used to live quite near to Weybridge at one time. He's now here in the Algarve. Just tell him we love him, and he is a great British icon.
Could you say that again? I didn't quite hear that.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Listen. No, don't push it, Cliff. I've got loads of these. Loads of these. Another one I actually answered for you as well came from one of our regulars here, Pamela Roddy, to ask if you'd ever sung a song in Portuguese. Well, to the best of my knowledge, you haven't.
I haven't.
Because you said you do get by. But I think Richard Valentine, the singer, who sings in Portuguese and various other languages, will also confirm to me and to you that I think Portuguese is possibly one of the most difficult languages to sing in anyway, isn't it?
It is, but you know, I made an album in Spanish, and the funny thing is, the Spaniards, when I did it, they said, you have a Portuguese sort of accent. I thought, well, I didn't realize that could happen, but apparently it did. So, no, I've never sung in Portuguese, actually. I've sung in Spanish, Italian, French, and German.
All at the same time?
It was difficult, but I managed it.
Oh. The other one, our mutual friend, had a message from her. Wee Bonnie Tyler.
Oh, Bonnie.
Yeah.
The last time I saw her, we had chicken piri-piri.
Yeah.
And a really nice place in Algauge. And, I see her regularly when she's here, but she's still touring quite heavily, so she's away at the moment, I believe, and on the way back to England, you told me.
Well, you see, she's like you. He said, I am actually going to start taking it a little easier.
I think it's difficult to take it easier. What you have to do, Bonnie, if you're listening, is give yourself more time off. In other words, when I start touring, sometimes it's a sort of concentrated 6 months, but then I make sure that I get plenty of time off in between, and I find that's the only way. I can't seem to slow down. As Bonnie would know, you make an album, you then expect it to promote it, you then expect it to go on tour with it, so really you can't slow down.
No.
So I keep making albums, and I go through the same processes, but I've given my time off in Portugal, and I take time off in Barbados, and I don't do anything during those periods, except maybe if I'm requested to a charity evening or something like that, I can get my guitar out, and it's not too much pressure.
Well, on that subject, Tom Henshaw from the Tomorrow magazine asked me if I would ask you if you would be a song slave for Caslas, which is the home in Lagos for underprivileged, abused, physically, emotionally troubled kids. They're trying to raise the funds to refurbish this, but I actually said, I'm very loath to ask you this because I know how much you do for the charities here and throughout the world.
I did one on Monday last time.
I know you did.
A very good friend, my partner in the winery, in fact, Nigel Birch, his wife's sister tragically died on that N125 right by the shopping Algarve area, and she was already from years ago. I remember doing something for her. Then she was looking after children in Albufeira, and she was wild about animals. She took care of sick animals.
Fabulous lady.
The animals that were thrown out, but. Yes, I always feel that when it comes to children, they're the ones that their suffering seems so unfair because they're so young and they've done nothing in their lives. They haven't done anything evil to even say you deserve it. They don't deserve it.
You have to thank your lucky stars, don't you?
Absolutely, you count your blessings.
I forgot the message I had for you from Bonnie, by the way, who's got to be listening in online. Twix flights from Denmark to London. Help her when she gets back to South Wales because the weather's not so good there as it is here. And she also said, would I thank you on behalf of the bottles that you signed that she gave to her friends, and it certainly scored her a few brownie points.
Oh, good, but I hope they drank the stuff in it.
Oh, I think
some people
did.
say to me, I've got a bottle of your wine, I'm not going to drink it. I said, no, drink it, save the bottle.
Oh, could you say that louder for my wife Val's sake? Because years ago you signed one and she won't let me open it.
Well, the signature's still going to be there, Val. You just drink the wine.
Yeah, and I said stick a candle in the bottle.
Yes, like they did with Mateos.
No, she won't do that. No. And here's one. Before we go to a commercial break, you're going to love this one I had in. This comes from a tribute band to Cliff and the Shadows. And can you please ask him what new tracks will you be recording in October at your birthday time? And this comes from a tribute band called Rich Clifford and the Young Once. Well, I can relate to the young once, but I can't relate to the rich bit. What about you?
I relate to all of that. Well, the interesting thing is there are so many. Having done the Fabulous Rock and Roll Songbook Volume 1, you realise how many fantastic songs out there. I'm going to have a go. Now, I'm going to tell you something now. I'm going to have a go at Kathy's Clown by the Everleys, and I have asked Paul McCartney. He's going to be in Nashville doing a concert right when I'm recording. And
you duet it, yeah?
Well, I don't know, because I said to him, I understand, when you're on tour, the last thing you want to do on your day off is to sing. So I said, look, just see how you feel. He was interested, and so I said, just let me know. If you feel up to it, we'll do it. And if he really likes the idea, if he likes the track and doesn't feel like singing on that day, with modern technology, we can just send a file of the stuff to wherever he is, and he can put his voice on. But so I'm hoping to do that. I'm doing things like A Whole Lot of Shaking, Great Balls of Fire, a whole bunch of stuff that I can't remember because I've got 17 tracks. No, I'm doing 15 tracks. And the Nashville band have requested that we redo Move It. So I said, yeah, but I've already redone it a number of times. I said, yeah, but we want to play it. We want to play Move It. These Americans, I didn't think they knew who I was, but they wanted to have a go at it. So I
thought the Americans, all they knew was Devil Woman and We Don't Talk Anymore.
The latter ones.
They were the two, weren't they, that they loved there?
Yeah, they were the two big ones. I had 4 top 10 hits.
Yeah.
But they were the two big
They always remember those. Yeah. On the subject of duetting with people,
go on.
I've got a question for you, but I'm going to do it right after these little messages at 15 minutes past 11. Don't run away. Lock that door. Keep him in here.
Solid Gold Sunday.
And that was from the year 1979 with our very own Sir Cliff Richard. We don't talk anymore, but we are this morning, and we've got the questions flooding into the studio. Here's one that's just come up from Lily in Luxembourg. She said, "Hi, good morning from Luxembourg. Lovely to see Cliff in your studio, Owen. So delicious. Happy memories of the concert at the O2. Just singing along with it now. Love it." And we had one in this morning from Rob Witchell in Pretoria in South Africa, and he is connected with the South African fans of Cliff, and his question is, any plans to visit their part of the world?
Not at the moment, actually. I mean, that's plans usually. If I was going to come to South Africa, it wouldn't be for at least another year and a half. I just got over a tour that took me from January 2013 through till June this year, on and off, recording in between, promoting in between, doing radio, television in between. So it takes a long time to set it up. But South Africa is one of those places I've always had a wonderful time visiting. They're very nice people. They now that they got rid of the apartheid situation, which relieved the pressure for the country, and I think many artists have been since that time. And they're a very easygoing people, and I would like to come back, but I have no immediate plans.
No immediate plans is your answer to that one, sadly, Rob. But keep supporting it. Go onto the fan club page, and you'll be able to find out exactly what he's up to there. Here's another one that came in from the Big Apple, from Anne Backhouse. She said, "Hope you had as much fun as they did at the Gramercy Theatre. What a fabulous show."
The Gramercy.
Gramercy, is that what it's called?
Well, I was going to be on the Morrissey show, and then Morrissey fell sick and cancelled. So we cancelled everything, all the flights of the band. And I said, "Don't cancel my flight. I'm going to go anyway. I'll just enjoy New York." And then I discovered when I got there that my band leader, one of my singers, and one of my technicians had decided to go. In the meantime, having got over my depression, I thought, wait a minute though, there's a whole bunch of people who will never get their money back. They had booked hotels, non-refundable, airline tickets, non-refundable. So I said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to book the Gramercy, just go and I'll give you a free night. So we found that we could only take about 500 people, and I think, unfortunately, 200 people couldn't get in. I didn't expect that many. I knew there were about 300 from Britain coming. Well, there were also people from Canada, from Texas, from Philadelphia. And we had a fantastic evening. And the answer is yes. I had the most amazing time because it was so spontaneous. It was funny, it was fun, musically it was good. Susie sang with me, Keith Hayman on the keyboard, Simon Grocott working the lights, and it was one of those magical things. For me, that to me is a magical moment, because you couldn't have planned for it to be like that, and yet it became a special evening for me, and hopefully, of course, for the crowd that came.
It's like a party, isn't it? If you don't organise something and it just happens.
It just happens.
Like you're going back to today. All right, Joan, he's on his way. I've got to keep her happy. Do you remember that last time I was helping you on a bottle signing?
Yes.
And she says, Owen, is he going to be long? I said, well, we got another half a dozen people, Joan. She said, his lunch is ready, you know. What a lovely girl she is. Well, look, before I put some more questions to you, and I've got to do another few messages in a minute, you're sat alongside tribute act Ricky Ryan, who was your chauffeur for the morning.
I know, it was fantastic to come to my front door, and there was Elvis.
Yeah, well, you told me you'd never met him.
Well, I have now.
Yeah, well, it's the best I could do.
I've never sung with him, but I'm going to.
Oh, yeah.
That's news for Elvis as well.
Now, I heard this rumour, so what is this about? I was waiting for you to volunteer it.
Look, Owen, I think people know that I've been an Elvis fan forever. Those early years were important for me. He inspired me. I still say if there'd been no Elvis, there'd be no Cliff Richard, and I don't even think there'd be a Beatles. That genre of music headed by Elvis was what influenced all of us. So I've had this dream of making an album with Elvis, because everywhere I go, Elvis has been part of my career. I'd go to Hong Kong or Singapore or Australia or New Zealand or anywhere in Europe, and they'd say to me, oh, in my school, it was either Elvis or Cliff. They didn't say Elvis or Ricky or Elvis or somebody else. They always said Elvis or Cliff. So I said, he's been part of my life. I spoke with Priscilla Presley. She said if it was my choice, you should do it because Elvis knew all about you. I was so thrilled when she told me that. Apparently he kept an eye on all the competition.
Yeah.
And so he kept an eye on what I was doing. But she said, I don't own the rights to his music. Only Sony does. So I got in touch with Sony. Okay, the first answer is disappointing. I cannot do an album with Elvis. But they said I could do a track. Well, I'm going to sing with Elvis. Track? I chose Blue Suede Shoes. But listen, before I go any further, they did say to me that in the contract, it says, yes, I can record the song. But if they don't like it, the way I do it, it won't be ever heard by anybody except me and people that come to my house. I'll play it.
And your friends.
And my friends.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things. So I'm hoping that I can win them over with it. And I can talk to them and say, look, it's so difficult to sell records now. And there we have a whole audience of people that were either Cliff or Elvis fans. And I don't care who was the winner in the competition. They all knew both our names and linked us together.
Yeah,
so I'm hoping that I can talk them into it.
It worked, didn't it?
But I'm going to do it in October. I will be recording with Elvis. And I'm hoping that Sony will like it enough to release it.
Right, quick message here that came in from Con Harrington of the Teesside Fan Club, who's been a fan of yours since he was 8 years old. He said, what would you say was your ultimate Cliff album and why? And would you please say happy birthday to him because he's going to be 33 on the 12th and he was there at the winery last Monday with his mum Margaret.
He was, I saw them there, yeah. Yes, I know Con, he's been a fan for a long time and I've seen him around all over the place actually. In fact, dare I say, Con, all over the world? I don't know, but seems to show up everywhere.
Well, they came over particularly to go to the charity concert at the winery.
That's right, and it was a nice one. And I thought that they had, in fact, an Italian youth orchestra.
Oh, yeah,
playing, and it was fantastic. I have to say, it's the best sort of youth orchestra I've ever heard live. They were so good at it. And there was one kid that couldn't have been more than about 13, and he was short, and he was playing trombone. And when he stood up, the trombone was smaller than he was. It was just great music. They played great music, and I just closed the evening and did about 40 minutes or something like that. And it was fun to do. So I hope Connor's mother enjoyed it. And in answer to the question, it's really hard to pick one out. I have soft spots for a lot of them. I liked Green Light. I liked Every Face Tells a Story, and mostly because the songs were so darn good. And when we were playing, somebody asked me here, do you like hearing yourself sing? I said, well, I like hearing my records because it reminds me how lucky I have been to have been given this wealth of fantastic material to sing. Your introduction mentions all the albums and stuff. That could only happen, certainly in those days, because I didn't write songs very early on in my career. I relied on people that wrote great songs and were willing to let me have them. Most of the time because they couldn't sing them themselves, which is lucky for me. So I still don't know why someone hasn't revived We Don't Talk Anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I did a pretty darn good job, but I'm sure there's somebody out there now who could perhaps improve it.
No, you've just answered that. There are certain songs that belong to certain singers. Would you not agree, you professional singers here?
I'd cover it. Yeah, but Owen, it doesn't stop me doing my fabulous rock and roll songbook. All those original records were brilliantly done by Jerry Lee Lewis and Elvis. And that's why I try to say on my sleeve notes on the first album, this is not to compete with the originals. I'm not afraid of taking Brian Hyland's classic,
Sealed with a Kiss.
Sealed with a Kiss. And give it my interpretation. And when I heard my interpretation, I thought, that's paying respects to the original. And just to prove it's a great song. Usually great songs can be sung by a lot of singers, though.
Yeah.
So We Don't Talk Anymore is available, folks, even though I didn't write it and shouldn't be publishing it for other people.
Now, a quick one that I want to prove while I do the next little message moment. For fear of embarrassing you, that when you released the fabulous rock and roll songbook, of course you were engaged in a multitude of interviews with different radio stations and television stations.
Yes.
And every time you listen to the radio or put the television on, there was Cliff Richard talking about the fabulous rock and roll songbook.
It's the chance you get to promote these days. There's no guarantee that the mainstream radio stations anywhere in the world now will actually play records by people of a certain age. I'll say no more. And so therefore you have to do what you can. I did in 1 month, I did 125 different TV and radio interviews, performances as well. And it was the toughest time I've ever had. I had to tell my office that, look, I can't do this again. I'm not 18. And even when I was 18, it would have been tough to do.
Pretty tough, yeah.
And I was jet lagged. Coming back from the States, you've got a 5-hour time deficit. And they said, yeah, but you don't have to leave the house till 10:30. I said, but that's 5:30 a.m. in New York.
Yeah, forget
that means
it.
I have to get up at 3:30. So anyway, we've come to an agreement. In future, we'll try and make it easier for me to do, because I like doing what I'm doing now. I like talking to you about stuff. You know,
Funny enough, we like you doing it.
Well, I'm an easy touch when it comes to that sort of thing, but at that stage I was so worn out. I couldn't. I went back to Barbados, I think it was, and I think I slept for nearly a week. I didn't leave the house. I was just a zombie, and you can't afford to do that to yourself.
Well, your body's telling you to chill out.
Yeah, if I want to sound excited, which I am when I come here, I need to be excited, and sometimes if you're down and flushed out, it's difficult to do that.
Well, you just said you enjoy coming here. That is up until I'm going to do this to you. Because when you're doing all those interviews, you see, I know you're rushing from one place to the other, and people are doing your hair and adjusting your shirt. You see, and then somebody came on to me and said, has Cliff Richard got a wig? Because his hair was sticking out the back.
I have got one, actually, but I don't wear it. I did Heathcliff. And in Heathcliff, I said to the director, he said, can you grow your hair out long? I said, I can grow it out long, but please, why do this to me? As an artist, Rick, I don't know what you... If I turn around and give the band the applause, and I see my silhouette on the floor, and I see my hair sticking out, for the next 2 songs, I'm trying to get the hair straight. A bad hair moment is not good for acting, certainly.
Right.
So I said, get me a wig. I'll wear a wig and it'll always look like Heathcliff. So I still have the Heathcliff wig, but I don't dare wear it because it's so long.
Well, what I'm referring to is they overdid the lacquer, and as you bent, the hair at the back stood out like a tail, and they thought it was a wig. So while I'm doing the commercial break and people are watching the webcam, David Paulisiger is also a hairdresser. I am going to get him to prove to the crew here this morning that every hair on your head is your own. Will you please, while they do this commercial break, David,
what do you want me to do?
I want you to please just give Sir Cliff Richard's hair a little bit of a
tug. Is this for the
tug.
benefit of the webcam?
Yes, because they're watching you now while I'm doing
real,
this.
Yeah,
there you go. Keep watching.
Sunday morning classic hits with Owen G.
Tin soldier in your hands, I'm good for nothing but to obey your commands. You never really loved me, I know. So wind me up, let me go.
Wind me up and let me go, but we're not going to let him go just yet.
At the moment.
Now, come on, David. David, you can confirm that is his real hair, isn't
Absolutely, 100%.
it? Yes. And who's
We're not
jealous?
going to give any brand names
Yeah.
or products at all, are we?
And-
No.
To do in the advertising.
And just tell me, David, has he got a little hole in his, same as mine? Could you just check?
No,
Hasn't he?
no. Yours is nature's blood.
I know why. I know why. You see, he works so hard, he don't have time to wear it out on the headboard when he's sleeping. That's why he goes to Barbados and
great.
sleeps for a week.
I do. Every now and then I have to.
Yeah.
It's a push sometimes, this career.
Now, here's one from Down Under, from Janet Johnson. Just came on via Facebook to say, please let Cliff know that Australia loves him and ask about his plans for next year.
Well, we did have a fantastic... I started the tour January 2013, as I mentioned earlier, and it started in Sydney. I rehearsed in Sydney. We went to New Zealand, came back to Sydney, and filmed the DVD in Sydney, which, by the way, went to #1 in Britain. I was absolutely pleasantly shocked. It goes to show that these young upstarts have still got to get past some of us oldies. Every now and then, they have to take over from us. So it was a thrill for me in Australia. I may have said this before, but if you haven't heard me say it, my band has always said to me, if you can't afford to take us to Australia, we'll come for free. It's such a great place to visit, and the touring takes place in their middle of their summer. So you don't get flus and coughs and colds, and you're out on the beaches during the day or playing tennis and stuff like that, and the show becomes an absolute highlight of your day. So, Janet, I'm so glad that you enjoyed everything. And yes, I don't have plans for Australia immediately, but you see, it's always lurking, always lurking.
Are you not booked like 18 months ahead now?
We are. I've got something. I'm planning something for next year. It's going to be my big birthday next year. And all I can tell you is that there will be something, and you'll have to watch this space, as they say. But I'd like to do something special, obviously, and if that works, I can take it elsewhere. But technically, it's to celebrate my 75th birthday.
I've got a question for you. Last Sunday, we managed to get the Anything Goes from the forthcoming album called Cheek to Cheek by Tony Bennett in duet with Lady Gaga. And, of course, he was 88 years old last Sunday.
Fantastic.
Now,
What a sing. His voice doesn't change at all.
Now, my question to you is, can you see yourself doing something similar at that age? And if you had the chance to sing in duet with a younger singer now, who would it be?
A younger singer now? I think I prefer singing with girls. Only because it's more, we all try to sing with falsetto and stuff like that, and sometimes I hear duets and I can't tell which one's which. Whereas when I record with Olivia, for instance, you can tell which is Olivia and which is Cliff. And so I'm trying to think now, who would I tell you what, Ellie Goulding.
Do you know, I had a feeling you were going to say that.
Or
was I telepathing it to you?
Well, there's one song I heard when I was doing that 120 interviews in 1 month, and I went online and bought it immediately, which was How Long Will I Love You? And I just loved the way she did it. The whole expression in it was fantastic. I just loved it. I'm not totally familiar with what she does. I've got a feeling she's probably wilder on her albums, but off the top of my head, I would say Ellie would be a very nice opportunity for me.
Now, talking about music, I want to play you a track of music. Now, this is a rather long email that came in, but in short, you will remember Rod Buckle from Sonic Records, who used to live in Burr Hill Park, right next door to Bruce.
Yes, that's right.
And they reckon, of course, it was a much nicer place than St George's Hills, but I wasn't going to mention that.
It's known, I lived in St George's Hills, and all the places around it were known as the foothills. Some people lived in the foothills,
well, he's
some
listening
of us lived on the mountaintop.
Yeah, he's listening in Thailand.
Good.
Well, he came on, and as you know, he handled my career for me for many, many, many years, and takes the blame for me being here now in my 19th year today.
Wow. Today?
Today.
Oh, congratulations.
I thought he'd think of a song. And I want you to think about another one, because Rod's telling me, do you know, even out here in Asia, your radio show has got some notoriety. And I do know you've got Cliff back as a special guest. I think I've been in the business, he said, almost as long, with his publishing company between 63 and 2006. He had 270 top 20 UK hits, so he does know a little bit about the music game. Now, he's telling me he heard this track of music on TV, was recorded to celebrate the 80th birthday of the revered King of Thailand, and the song blew him away. It's called Love Eternally by Paul Ewing.
Is it in English?
It is in English, and the performer on this is a Scots songwriter who's married to a Thai lady and lives in Bangkok. But he's got no contacts in the business whatsoever. So Rod said, as he's retired, he was so moved by this song, he traced the guy and he helped him to make sure he registered it properly with copyright societies, as in Asia it's almost impossible. And he goes, he would like Cliff to listen to this, and if you like it, you can have it. But next time I go to Thailand, I've got to take a bottle of wine with me from you at your expense. Now, I want you to listen to this, and I want everybody else to listen to it. And let's hear from you, Cliff, if it's the sort of song that you could see yourself recording. We're going to ask the other professional singers here, and we're going to ask our listeners if they'd like to hear you return this song. And by the way, Rod asked me to remind you also that his son, Tom's godfather, is Andy Howard, who was your hairdresser for many years.
Yes,
so he can prove your hair's real.
How about that?
This is Kiss FM.
One in harmony, all in unity. Together we will sing of love eternally. One in harmony, all in unity. Together we will sing.
The Kiss FM exclusive, written, composed and sung by Scots-born and Thai resident Paul Owen. The question is, should Sir Cliff take this on board and record it? We'll be asking him the question first. We'll be asking our other singing professionals here, and we're asking you, our listeners. Give us a call on 289587708. You've got the text number and you've got the email, ong@kissfm.pt. Just before I go to the commercial break, while you give that a little bit of thought, I must ask Cliff to do me a special little favour. Sadly, when I finished my show last week, I got the bad news that my youngest son, at the age of 46, had a stroke. He was 47 years old yesterday. Thanks to your team for sending their greetings, but perhaps you'd give him to Stefan a get well soon and happy birthday for yesterday. He's listening.
Stefan, well, happy birthday for yesterday, and get well soon. Get well even sooner if you can. Fantastic. And happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Fabulous rock and roll style. Happy birthday to you.
There we are. 12 minutes to the midday hour. Give us a call and let us know if you think Love Eternally should be recorded by our very own Sir Cliff Richard. Keep it, Kiss. 10 minutes for midday hour on a Solid Gold Sunday on Kiss with our very special studio guest, Sir Cliff Richard. Don't forget, we want to hear from you if you think he should consider recording Love Eternally by Paul Ewan. I've forgotten the text number. What's the text number, David?
The text number is 914-247-071.
There we are, you got it. And while we're playing a little bit of Tubular Bells in the background here from Mike Oldfield in the year 1974, let me now put my friend Sir Cliff Richard right on the spot. And having heard that song intently, and you were listening very, very carefully, is that something that you would consider doing?
Yes, I certainly would. I thought initially it started, and I thought the melody of the verse is really rather nice, quite commercial. I felt the backing was a little bit lackluster, but I mean, I don't know where they recorded it, but it's certainly a song I would consider recording. That's without a shadow of a doubt. You know, but as you know, I'm going to do an album that has nothing to do with this kind of music, and so therefore I have to get past October, and then nowadays you really do have to think hard about releasing new material. I know Elton John feels the same way, that sometimes you make a record like this and it would be probably better if some new young band did it because they'd get played, whereas I have a much tougher time with new material to actually get it played on the air. But you know, I'd like to have a go at it. I must say, it seemed like a very, very pretty song.
Well, the boys will probably now confirm what I said before you arrived, and I said I've listened to this song a few times and I know what you do. If people give you material, you've got your three piles. Yes, possible, no chance. And the possible is you go back again, don't you?
That's right.
Now, let me ask you a straight question. If you'd been given that, which pile would that go in?
I think that would have gone on the yes pile.
It would. Okay, now, what I said to the lads earlier, listen to it, and I feel if you did it, I can hear your voice singing those lyrics. I can actually hear it with a full orchestra backing and a full gospel-type choir as backing singers. And I think that would bring the depth of the song out.
It would be fantastic like that, yeah. Quite a production, though. And
so
again,
let's ask David Paul, what did you think of that one?
I thought it was in the mainstream of things that I think maybe have been done before, if I'm being honest. But obviously it's got potential, and like you say, Owen, with a big backing and an orchestra in the background, I think it could work. But where it would sit commercially, I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, if you listen to the words, it's not exactly a religious Christian song, but it does have meaning. Richard Valentine, what would you say?
Well,
is that one for Cliff?
Definitely one for Cliff, due to the fact that the colouring of the instrumental is very, very sweet, as is Cliff's voice. It's got a little Christmassy twang to it, but yes, with a full gospel choir and a full orchestration properly done, 5 stars.
Well, let's ask Ricky Ryan, because, of course, the King himself did a lot of gospel songs in all sort of styles, all sorts of genre. Can you actually hear Cliff doing that, a song like that?
I certainly hear Cliff doing that. It was a fantastic song for him to sing with a voice like his as well. I mean, everybody would recognise it as a Cliff song without even thinking about it. For me, it would be perfect, absolutely perfect. And I know my mum sat there thinking now, please get him to do it.
And I think, do you know, that when I listen to these talent shows, I don't know how you guys view it, but I like to just close my eyes and listen to the song and ask myself the question, if it was played on radio and you get in the car and switch the radio on, you hear that song, would you know it was that singer? Because for sure, you put the radio on, you know it's Cliff Richard, you know it's Will Young, you know it's Bonnie Tyler, because they've got distinctive voices like Rod Stewart and James Blunt, you know, and all these people. You know the singer, because there's so many sound the same.
Well, only because I think that everybody's influenced by so much these days. And I think it's probably more difficult for the female singers to sound different, because certainly since the Mariah Carey type of singing came in and became so popular, a lot of the girls tend to sound like Mariah Carey, which is not a bad thing. If I could sing like Mariah Carey as a bloke, I would gladly do it. But the danger is that you don't find an identity of your own. And you have to have... I was like an Elvis... I tried to sound like Elvis whenever I could when I was an amateur, but as soon as I had my career, I thought, oh my God, I can't do it. Elvis is already there. So I found a way of doing it my way. And so I appreciate when you say you recognize certain people, and that's true. But it's much more difficult, I feel, for women. There's so many fantastic female singers around, but a lot of the time they're trying to do what somebody else has done rather than break away and say, okay, how would I want to do this? You can use all the influences, all the vocal riffs and things that you can get from other people. You can break them down and do it yourself.
Right, well, we've got to do another few messages here at 4 minutes to the midday hour. Hope you're listening, Joan. Yes, I'll send him soon, don't worry. We'll get him away somehow. Lie.
Congratulations and celebrations.
Yes, and on behalf of all the KISS listeners and all the Sir Cliff Richard fans throughout the world, we'd like to congratulate him as he enters his 57th year in this particular
It
business.
seems to have flown by, especially this hour.
Well, I thought you were going to say it drags as it always does with you.
No, it's flashed by. But no, so is it. My career doesn't seem... I don't know how to feel anymore. You know, when I'm singing movie on stage, for instance, I just feel 18. That's what I was when I recorded it, and it doesn't make me feel any different. I feel 18. So I have to keep reminding myself that I'm not 18, because the danger is you start trying to do what 18-year-olds do and then you fall over.
Yeah, unfortunately you stagger about a bit and they think you've been drinking the products of your sideline.
And
you know.
probably have.
And let's give a plug for that, by the way. You're going to be joining Cy Freighter on Wednesday morning, are you not, with Nigel and the guys from the winery?
That's right, yeah. It would be nice to talk about the wine.
Yeah.
It'd be great. We've got a good, interesting year coming up, and we'll have a new winemaker took over last year, and so it's an interesting time for us.
Yeah, I hope you're listening this morning, Nigel, because I will be down to get a sample of this myself in due course, yeah?
He needs an injection.
Yeah.
What do they call that thing when you have it, a direct injection into the arm?
Intravenously.
A bottle of intravenous Vida Nova.
Actually, it tickles the taste buds. That's the thing I like, you know. I don't believe in this spitting it out business. No. Isn't that ridiculous?
I know, what a waste.
Yeah? But at least Val now knows the one that you signed about 5-6 years ago.
Drink it.
I should open it, shouldn't I?
Yeah, drink it. Don't tell her.
Yeah. And, well, can I get another one? You sign another one, look,
Absolutely.
and I'll just swap them over. She'll never know.
She'll never know.
She won't listen to this. Nobody listens to this show. You know that. Well, I'm lying, but it's just crashed. We got Facebook people, 6,170, just gone to 8,180.
Wow.
Some people like you, see.
I mean, I can't see a reason for them not to.
This is KISS FM.
Well, of course, our Sir Cliff doesn't live here anymore, but Carrie does. We're backtracking to the year 1980 now.
Wasn't it? That was on the Greenlight album. I
Yes.
thought that was going to be a really big smash in the States, because Devil Woman was the same kind of FM sounding thing, and yet it didn't really make it. It was okay. It was sort of, I think it reached 60 or something like that.
I know the reason for that. They're Americans.
No, Americans love all that kind of stuff. It depends on the I'm not going to have too much of a bash about record companies, but it's so nice for me to be with Warner Brothers. They're so excited about what I'm doing, and Sony now. Oh, by the way, that's the other thing. My new album, the Volume 2 of the Rock and Roll Songbook, is going to be on Sony, because obviously if I record Elvis's records, it can only be released on Sony. So, and Warner Brothers have been so nice to me. I've emailed and said, look, this has happened. It's my dream. It's never going to come my way again. And they said, oh, okay, don't worry. We understand. Do it. So they've let me off, and they'll take me back when I finished.
Do you know, when that came out, the fabulous Rock and Roll Songbook, everybody that I spoke to said, wasn't it nice to hear Cliff Richard singing in the sort of style that we remember him originally for?
Yes, that's right. That's what rock and roll kicked a lot of us off. And usually you start off with stuff that you love, and then you start thinking, yeah, but I could do that. And the rock and roll influence remains there. Whether I sing Devil Woman or We Don't Talk Anymore or Miss You Nights, it's all part of the pop rock adventure. And for me, it's all one and the same thing. Yes, it changes, because technically things have changed. We can do things on records now they couldn't do. I played Dum Dum, the Brenda Lee record Dum Dum, to one of my engineers, because I wanted the drum sound. It started, it went...
Yeah.
He said, I can't do that. I said, why not? He said, because our equipment's too good. So there was partly to do with the fact that the equipment was like primitive equipment, technically speaking, and so therefore they got a sound that was different. We'll never really quite capture that same sound, but you can capture an excitement. And I always feel that Volume 1, we got the excitement of the rock and roll, even though we could never do it the same way, and don't want to do it the same way. Let's leave Elvis and all those people alone where they were. They were classic versions of those songs. But it doesn't stop us, shouldn't stop us from doing contemporary versions of it.
Now, in a completely opposite direction, this is where this particular show is a bit restricted now, because the equipment we have here throughout all the studios is so high-tech that some of the early recordings that I remember doing in the 50s and 60s that were all in the job, right, you play this, you play this, right, thank you, goodbye, get your session fee gone, and then somebody mixes it. The quality now is not of a high enough standard for us to play on radio. It comes out so badly, so we can only play what we can play.
Yeah, I guess so. That is always a problem, isn't it? The sound and everything that we spend time recording, you wonder how it's presented. And the funny thing is, with the older music, I always think, for instance, I have got an engineer, Keith Bessie, who works with me all the time. He mixes the albums for me, and he can take one of the original albums that was on vinyl, and he can do things to it, and it can change it enough to be played now. And I wouldn't understand what he does, actually, to be honest with you. I'm not technically minded at all, but there is possibilities of making things work when you want them to.
Yeah, I've actually got this system in my own studio at home where I can actually take vinyls and digitally reproduce them. I actually did 78 old jazz records for a guy, but every 2-minute track was taking me about 5 hours. I wasn't very keen on doing that.
No.
But it can be done. But this is the problem we have. Some our listeners ask, can you please play this one from 1956 or from 1948 or whatever? And if it goes so far back and we listen, the quality isn't there, we really can't play it for fear of losing listeners, because every single fan, every single person that buys your singles or goes to your concerts, they are all equally important, aren't they?
They are. And if people do ask you to play something from way back in the 40s or 50s or even the early 60s, but say 50s, if you go to a contemporary version of it, if you find a compilation album of Ella sings Frank or whatever, you'll find that track has been doctored to sound good.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the old problems to it, but you're right, you can't play the original ones really. There was it was sort of recorded on gas.
Yeah, steam-driven.
And I've got to
Steam-driven
be driven.
recordings.
Oh, and I've got to be driven.
I know you've got to go, so with that...
I want to say what a pleasure it's been.
and you've endured every minute.
I've loved every minute of it. For those of you watching, continue to watch, and for those of you listening, continue to listen.
Yeah, Cliff, it's been an absolute pleasure. Again, I don't know how many times you've been in here, but I don't think I need to ask you or say this. You're welcome here any time you like, and we hope you'll be back very, very soon.
Is Bonnie coming to see you again soon?
Oh, you try and keep her away. She's irrepressible. She's lovely. We love her to pieces.
Give her my love when you see her.
Yeah, well, she's like you. She is one of the nicest people in show business, female variety, as you are from the male gender. You are always just the ordinary boy next door, irrespective.
And she's from Wales.
And she's from Wales.
But therefore, nobody's perfect.
Yeah. Well, you will know, being a Christian, that's what Jonah was doing in the whale. He was singing, because everybody sings in Wales. Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, thanks again, Owen. I really appreciate it.
Cliff,
and don't forget, drink the bottle and buy another one for Val.
Yes, I certainly will.
And I'll sign it.
And I'll badger Nigel for that. And we'll see you back here on KISS on Wednesday morning on The Breakfast Show to talk about all that great crushing that you do.
All the stuff that we
You've got to go back and tread a few, haven't you?
I have.
Cliff, been our pleasure.
Okay,
we love you. Thanks a lot. Give him a round of applause, crew.
KISS